let's go back to the video. So we have officially hit 500 subscribers here on YouTube, and as a thank you, I wanted to do my top 10 superhero movies ranked. So again, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all of the support you guys have been showing on the channel lately. Movies, trailers, stuff to break down, everything has just been cranked to a max lately, and I've been loving putting out all the content for you guys, and you guys have all been enjoying everything that I'm making. But again, in this video, I will be doing a 500 subscriber special going over my top 10 favorite superhero movies of all time. So I have 7 honorable mentions, and these are 17 through 11 on my list. These are just other movies that I've ranked. I just have them here on the top 10 list because sometimes they can shift up and down just depending on when I watch the movie and how I'm feeling. But getting started with the honorable mentions, at 17 is Spider-Man 1, at 16 is Big Hero 6, 15 is Kick-Ass, 14 is The Incredibles, 13 is X-Men Days of the Future Past, 12 is Deadpool, and 11 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, all of these movies, in my opinion, are all incredible, including the top 10 and these bottom 7. I just think these movies are absolutely phenomenal. If you put any of these 17 movies on, I'll definitely watch them and I'll happily watch them. But one movie that I'm surprised that made this list in general was Kick-Ass. I've only seen it one time, but it is just such a good film. It is well crafted. It's beautifully executed. The story is very basic, but it's so perfect to me. I actually did record a reaction to this movie, but all of the footage got corrupted because I was editing it as I was traveling and I lost the USB. I tried to recover it and everything just went to shambles with that video. So I sadly couldn't get that out to you guys, but I genuinely just love that movie. But now getting to the top 10, and number 10 for me is going to be Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Now I would say this one used to be a little bit higher up in the list, but as time is going on, I've kind of went down in my list for Captain America the Winter Soldier just because it was definitely revolutionary for the time. It was honestly the most grounded. It felt the most realistic, yet still kind of out of this world type of movie for the MCU. It honestly to me felt kind of genre bending for the MCU itself. Instead of having these massive things, it came off of these massive events of Avengers and still movies like Thor, those cosmic things, and it still went down a little bit in terms of where it takes place, and I really enjoyed that. I love the Hydra twist, and as a whole, I just think Captain America had so much great development in this movie. The reintroduction of Bucky, as well as Black Widow and Falcon in this movie, they're all awesome. This movie is one of the main reasons why Captain America is my favorite character in the entire MCU, or was my favorite since he's technically Steve Rogers isn't in the MCU anymore. But with that being said, actually number 9 is going to be Captain America Civil War. Both of these movies are just absolutely awesome. They're so much fun, and Civil War specifically, in my opinion, is the best paced MCU movie for the most part. I think Infinity War is just a little bit better, but I think Civil War definitely stands up. It introduces so many new characters. It is just so well balanced all around, and the conflict between Iron Man and Captain America is so well done on both sides. It makes you root for Captain America sometimes, it makes you root for Iron Man sometimes, and as a whole, I think it's just a great conflict building movie, and I think that they perfected it. I don't have too much else to say about Captain America Civil War because I did just do my MCU rewatch reviews, and I talked a lot about that movie, and I think this movie specifically really just elevates Captain America's character. Obviously, Winter Soldier does the same thing, but I think Civil War does it in the most perfect way, and it also propels the future of the MCU. But now moving on to number 8, my 8th favorite superhero movie of all time is going to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, I love this movie a lot. I was actually heavily debating where to put this movie on my list because every time I watch it, I'm on a high of Into the Spider-Verse, but then when I'm not watching it, I honestly kind of forget that it exists sometimes, but I don't know what it is. I think there's just so many great movies out there that every time I watch Into the Spider-Verse, I definitely feel something at my core, but it just doesn't last for me. So with that being said, I can still recognize that it's a near perfect movie, but most of the movies on this list are near perfect, at least in my opinion. I think the biggest standouts from, or honestly the biggest standout from Into the Spider-Verse has to be the animation style. It is perfect in my opinion. It is the best animated movie I've ever seen. It's top 3 Spider-Man movies, of course, and again, it's in my top 10 for superhero movies of all time. And I cannot wait for Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and Part 2 and to see what they do with Miles' character in the future, because this movie genuinely set him up so well. I didn't expect to be so attached to this character, and when I was going in, I didn't watch this in the first even month it came out. I think I watched it a few weeks after it came out, and I wasn't even expecting to like it that much, and I instantly fell in love with it, and I still really just love the movie. I don't know what it is. It doesn't stick with me in the way that all these other movies do. But moving on to number 7, and this one might be surprising to a lot of you, and that one is going to be Joker. I think this movie is absolutely awesome. Now, I will say, I don't think this movie is as good as Into the Spider-Verse, and I know a lot of people don't like this movie. They don't like the messages in this movie. They don't like how violent it is. I've seen people call it a biopic of a shooter, and I completely agree. That is what this movie at its core really is, but I like the brutality. I like the violence. I like the batshit craziness of everything. I don't know what it is. I just like seeing that in a superhero movie. And I think this movie honestly has to be formed into the superhero category because it's Joker. If it wasn't Joker and if it was any other character in this world, we wouldn't consider a superhero movie. But for the fact and the sake that it is Joker and it was put into this type of movie with Todd Phillips kind of crafting this Gotham around him, I love the way they did it. I don't know. I think my opinion on Joker is very weird because I love the movie. I know it's not the best thing in the world, but I just, every time I watch it, I'm just entranced and I'm always thinking about it. And so I think for that reason, it deserves to be in the number 7 spot. Now, in 6th place is going to be Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I had a lot of debating when putting this on my list because, again, this is one of those things where I enjoy the movie a lot. I don't think it's near a perfect movie, but like my enjoyment of it makes me feel like it's a perfect movie. So I'm putting it up there. I literally do not care. Now, if you guys saw my video where I did my entire ranking for all of the Spider-Man movies, you can kind of predict where the 3 Spider-Man movies on this list are gonna be. But with that being said, Spider-Man No Way Home, I think, is a really, really, really good movie. I think it's a near perfect Spider-Man movie for that. The score is perfect in my opinion. The action is great. All of the acting is phenomenal. My biggest gripe with this movie is like the visuals, not necessarily like the CGI. A lot of people have complaints about it. I personally don't really care. But when I'm talking about like shot composition and filmmaking stuff, like there's some scenes that are perfect, like the apartment scene or the montage of him like kind of waiting for his college letters and stuff like that. Like all of that is really, really cool in my opinion. That's very creative filmmaking. But the rest of the movie, it does not feel like it's anything super special. So I think that's what drags down even the entertainment factor for me, is like it doesn't feel like anything fresh. Whereas even a movie like Joker or Kick-Ass, they feel visually refreshing. Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't. But my enjoyment for Spider-Man No Way Home, I saw that movie 6 times in theaters. I enjoy the hell out of that movie. But now moving on to my top 5 favorite superhero movies of all time. Before we get into it, let me know your top 5 favorite superhero movies in the comments down below. But with that being said, number 5 on my list is going to be Avengers Infinity War. I really love this movie. Like I said before, I think this is probably the best paced movie in the entire MCU. This is my favorite movie in the entire MCU. Up here and on, there's no more MCU movies, but I love Avengers Infinity War so much. Thanos feels like the main character here, and I do think he is the main character here. Even keeping Iron Man and Captain America separated, that feels like the perfect creative decision, especially going off of Civil War, and keeping Thanos as the main character in this movie and driving everything off of him, introducing him as the actual villain for the first time is just perfect. The intro to this movie before the Avengers Infinity War logo plays, it is one of the best Marvel intros ever. And on top of all of this, the action is awesome. The visuals are just stunning. There's maybe like that New York scene, the New York fight, that the color grading's a little off there, I will be honest. But other than that, the visuals, the CG is just, oh my goodness, it is near perfect. Thanos looks so good in that movie. The way that they did the CG for him is just perfect in my opinion. Overall, just the CG in this movie, the visuals, just the way everything comes together, all these little pieces, it's culminated so well in a movie that just flows perfectly. Now, you guys might have noticed I didn't have Avengers Endgame on this list, and I definitely think Avengers Endgame is a huge step down from Infinity War. I think Infinity War is just an absolute masterclass of a movie from the MCU. I don't think Endgame is near that because I think the ending of Infinity War just set up so much with already how good the movie was. The masterclass of an ending that it had set the bar for Avengers Endgame so high up. Endgame didn't come anywhere near that bar, in my opinion at least. But that is subjective again. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on what you think is better, Infinity War or Endgame. I personally think Infinity War is miles and miles and miles ahead of Endgame. But now to my number 4, my 4th favorite super movie of all time is going to be Logan. Now, if you saw my X-Men ranked video, you saw that Logan is my favorite X-Men movie of all time. And again, it is number 4 here on my list. I, again, don't have much else to say about this movie. I talked a lot about it in my previous videos, but I think Logan is just perfectly executed. It's a very basic story, but I think just the use of all of these different characters and X-23, Charles Xavier, even Logan himself, I think all of the character arcs and the inclusion of everyone, and also the ending for Logan, I think it all meshes really well. And having this kind of mentor role that Logan has to go through, and having him go through the ringer with that, and just him like his healing abilities slowly going away, along with X-23 kind of being an annoyance, but he also like deep down would sacrifice anything for her at the end of the movie. I just think it's a perfectly crafted movie in terms of being able to balance every single possible tone. Now, I will also say I've seen Logan more times in black and white than I have in normal. I've seen Logan in black and white 3 times and I've seen it in normal twice. I just love the movie, the way that the movie is presented. It's impactful with or without color, and in my opinion, I think that's when a movie is best. When you don't necessarily need color to convey everything, but even when you have the color, it just elevates everything about it. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on Logan. I would love to make a full video on it because I haven't really talked about Logan by itself, and I have a few more things I would love to say, but I do want to move on talking about my number 3 favorite superhero movie of all time. Now, top 3, this is very, very tough for me. Top 3, I was debating a lot. I constantly just go through my top 3 and I'm like, which one goes where, which one goes where, and number 3 for me is going to be Matt Reeves' The Batman. The Batman is just an absolute gem. I would say number 2 and number 3, they can switch around a little bit here and there just depending on my mood, but with that being said, The Batman, I watched it 6 times in theaters. I've seen it 2 times on HBO Max already. You can see I have the poster here, I have the Little Caesar stuff here, I have all of the merchandise. You guys have seen all of my videos, the Funko Pops, the action figures. I am a Batman whore, but I love the movie. I honestly don't know what to say. Like, I've already made like a 35-minute spoiler review on the movie, and my spoiler-free review was 30 minutes, so I had so much to say in both videos. And on top of that, I have like 30-minute videos about the movie always coming out because I just am in love with it. This was an easy 5 out of 5 movie in my opinion right when I came out of the theater. I knew it was going to be a masterpiece forever. I'm so glad I rewatched it multiple times. And I think one thing that really just pushes me so forward onto this movie is the fact that I got to watch it in the biggest IMAX screen in the United States, which is in New York on Broadway. It was a stunning experience, and I'm just so glad I got to watch that masterclass that Greg Fraser and Matt Reeves crafted on the biggest IMAX screen in the United States. And with that being said, I just don't have much else to say about this movie. Like, I think that I just think it's perfect all around, you know? But yeah, I don't have much else to say about the movie. I just think it's perfect all around. Characters, scores, visuals, the action is great for what we have in the movie. The mystery detective aspect is just perfect. The building and the lore of this Gotham world is perfectly set up for it to be even more fleshed out in the future. We're getting 3 spin-off shows as well as even more movies, a sequel, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna get more of this universe, and I couldn't be more excited. But now to my second favorite superhero movie of all time, and that is going to be Spider-Man 2. Now, I made a video on this before watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and this movie is just timeless in my opinion. I do think 2 and 3, like I said before, Spider-Man 2 and The Batman are going to be interchangeable, I think, sometime in the future. But for me, number 1 and number 2 are heavily nostalgia-based, and I'll completely admit it. And number 3, again, I just had so much hype going into the movie, and the fact that it even lived up to all of it and surpassed it, that makes it number 3 automatically. But number 2 and number 1, they're very, very nostalgia-based. Weirdly enough, Spider-Man 2 was my first superhero movie of all time, which is crazy to say because I didn't watch Spider-Man 1 before it. But that is the main reason why I cried every single time I watched Spider-Man No Way Home in theaters. The Doc Ock and Tobey Maguire scene where Doc Ock basically goes, "Oh, you're all grown up." Like, it felt like he was talking to me, even though I wasn't even like, I was born the year the movie came out. But I watched it when I was like 2 or 3 years old, and I watched it like at least a few times every year since then. It is just, it's such a good movie. Like, it is, I honestly, I could gush all day about the movie. To sum it up, I will say, I think what makes it so good is that the themes and the superhero side of it always stay up to date. Like, anytime you go back and revisit this movie, everything always hits. Whether it's the theme, even the visual effects even hold up, but whether it's the themes, the characters, the struggles, the wins, the losses of these characters in this movie, everything always feels like you can connect back to it. And I cannot say that about any other movie on this list. Even my number 1, I think Spider-Man 2 is the most timeless movie on this list just because of how well it was crafted by Sam Raimi. But with that being said, now to my favorite superhero movie of all time, and that is going to be The Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan, starring Christian Bale. Christian Bale was my favorite Batman until The Batman came out, of course, but I still absolutely love The Dark Knight. I know a lot of my friends have The Batman over The Dark Knight, but I'm still sticking with The Dark Knight, and the main reason for that, again, is pure nostalgia. I've been watching this movie since I was like 5 years old. This is the movie I've actually seen the most times ever, and I'm on my 14th watch of it. Every time it comes back on Netflix, I'm always watching it. I never got to watch it in theaters, so if it ever returns to theaters, I will be watching it for sure. It is just so good. It is just that, it is that movie. The introduction is so good. It was my favorite superhero movie introduction until the Batman did come out. I also love this take on the Batman. I will say I have problems with Christian Bale's Batman and Batman Begins, where he does kind of technically kill Ra's al Ghul, but other than that, I do think Christian Bale's Batman was near perfect. And having this super grounded yet still slightly like sci-fi, more techie type of Batman, I think it was the perfect blend of all of it. And I think that they used all of the Bruce Wayne things really well and meshed it with the Batman things really well. On top of this, again, like I mentioned for all these movies, the scores are just absolutely phenomenal, and that is no different for this movie. The score by Hans Zimmer is freaking beautiful. The visuals, I wouldn't say it's as visually insane as like Spider-Man 2 or the Batman or even like Joker or something like that, but it's still a really well visually shot movie. And out of all the things I've already said, I haven't even mentioned Heath Ledger's iconic performance as the Joker. Will say at first I was really debating between Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger, but I do think Heath Ledger's Joker is way better. I mean, I think it's just iconic, and people say maybe if you took out Heath Ledger's Joker, it wouldn't be as good. Personally, I disagree. I think Heath Ledger absolutely just elevated this movie. I still think this movie would be a top 10 superhero movie of all time if you put Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in here or any other Joker. I still think it would be that good of a movie because I really like it. I just think Heath Ledger's performance elevated this movie to a whole other level. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Again, thank you so much for 500 subscribers on the channel. Let me know your top 10 favorite superhero movies of all time in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.